Good afternoon, my name is Craig Earlham, market analyst at ALPARI UK, and welcome to our daily update on the markets. The market has been pretty quiet today, and there's two reasons for that really. The first reason is we've got to look back at the weekend we've just had. We saw the bailout of the Spanish banking system, which again we saw on Monday. We saw a big reaction to this. We saw the IBEX opening higher by around 5%. We saw the FTSE, the CAC and the DAX opening higher by around 2%. But very, very early on, we did realise that there was no real details that had been released or that were being released in respect to the bailout. So we didn't know how much the bailout was. It's anticipated it's around 100 billion euros, but there's no exact figures been released. We believe the interest on these bailouts is going to be around 3 to 4%, but again, we're not too sure. We don't know how long it's going to be paid off over. We don't know when they've got to start paying it off. And I think the most important thing, this is what's caused the biggest reaction in the market, is we don't even know where this bailout has come from. We don't know whether it's come from the EFSF, which is coming towards its expiry date essentially. We don't know whether it's come from the ESM, which doesn't actually come into play until next month. And the difference is pretty significant. If the bailouts come from this ESM, then it means basically that the lenders in the Eurozone become the preferential creditors to the Spanish government. And the difference this makes is that if the Spanish banking system or the Spanish government does default on its loans, then the Eurozone lenders will get paid back before the bondholders. Now, this obviously makes a big impact in the bond market. On hearing about the bailout, we saw the bonds drop down. Spanish bonds actually fall from above 6.5%. Early on in the session, they fell right back to just below 6%. But once the details of this became unknown and rumours started to arise that the bailout was coming from the ESM as opposed to the EFSF, these yields went right back up to around 6.8% again, which is roughly around where they're trading today. So like I said, there's a lot of uncertainty, new uncertainty that's arisen as a result of this bailout, and a lot of new concerns. So again, we are seeing that in the bond market, and as we've seen, we saw the Italian yield go right up, go down and then go right up with the Spanish yields when they went to around 6%, and their Italian BTPs are now trading around 6.2%. So there's your next concern, because now the focus has moved on to the Italian banks, and we saw that. We've seen the Italian index, the FTSE MIB, we've seen that now trading higher over the last few days, significantly higher, significantly lower, than the we've seen on the other indices in Europe, like the IBEX, which again, the banking system has received very well there. We've seen the IBEX trading slightly higher again over the last couple of days, but the MIB has become the new concern because of the Italian banks. So we'll see where we go from there. The other concern we've seen is coming from the weekend coming. Now, this weekend, we've got the Greek elections on Sunday, and again, there's an awful lot of uncertainty surrounding these elections. I mean, firstly, we don't know who's going to win the elections. There's no clear signs. Every poll seems to tell a different story. One poll says we've got Syriza in the lead. The next poll will say we've got New Democracy in the lead. And irrespective of who wins, we still don't know even if we're going to be able to form a coalition government. If we look back to the previous elections, New Democracy, who won the elections, failed to form a coalition government within one day. Alexis Tsipras's Syriza party failed to form a government shortly after because there wasn't enough anti-bailout parties who were willing to work with the government. So again, on Sunday we've got this uncertainty as well, and the uncertainty that follows. So if we do form a government, is it going to be pro-bailout? Is it going to be anti-bailout? And then, will we even form a government? Is it going to be similar to the last election when we saw that we had a week long of negotiations and then no government at the end of it? We don't know these things, so there's going to be a lot of uncertainty in the markets towards the end of this week. And therefore, I think the volatility in the markets is just like today, just like yesterday. I think there's going to be very little volatility, very little trading until we have answers to these questions. So we've got the Spanish banking where we've seen a bailout, no answers, we've got no details. We've got the Greek elections. We don't know who's in the lead. We don't know if they can form a government. So we've got to wait and see from these details before I think the trading is going to pick up. And we've seen, like I say, we've seen this across the board, even on the currency trading. If you look at euro against the dollar, the trading volume has been much lower than we've seen usually. Same with cable, same with dollar yen. Everything's trading very low, although there's a lot to come from these currency pairs. If you look at euro dollar, we could, if there's any more delays in these elections, or if there's any more bad news that comes out of the bailout, we could see the euro drop down to around 122, which is this year's lows, or even further, and then it could go much further if we do. Or with the sterling, we've got it trading low towards an ascending wedge line. So I mean, if we fall below that, could see it fall all the way back from around 155 where it's trading now, all the way back to around 135. So again, there's a lot of uncertainty, so I expect to see little trading at the moment, but it could pick up once we see the results of these Greek elections on Sunday, and once we start to see some details emerging, some concrete details emerging from the Spanish bailout. But that could be more towards the end of the month, when the other external audits of the banking system are completed and they know exactly, a much better figure of how much these banks will need to be able to avoid further shocks to the system. Aside from that, we've got nothing else going on. So my name's Craig Earle, a market analyst at ALPARI UK, and thank you very much for joining us.